Throughout my experimentation in creating a recognizable image and style for my films, I've found myself gravitating towards a softer image with natural contrast, rich colors, and bloomed highlights. And because of that, I've tested so many different free film emulation plugins. I've watched countless YouTube tutorials on the subject, but after Dehancer reached out to me to make an unbiased review of their product for my channel, I knew that I'd be tapping into a whole new world of film emulation that I had never dipped into before. So for this video, I decided to take a look at some shots that I've graded with Dehancer and break them down while explaining what you can accomplish for your footage with each of Dehancer's film emulation tools. Alright, so let's not waste any time. Right here I have a clip from San Diego, and I really wanted to emulate that look of, I believe it's 35mm film. So let's open up our color menu here. As you can see, I have first created a basic node to kind of convert my log footage to Rec 709. This just brings in some contrast and color back into the image so that I can get ready to grade with Dehancer. Dehancer does have input settings right here to do that conversion directly within the plugin, but I like to do it beforehand and then just leave the plugin for the film emulation characteristics. So first I have this basic node. Then in curves, I customize the color to my liking. And then once we turn on this, you can see there's very subtle things that I've added here that have helped me to achieve the look that I want. So if we go ahead and close all of these tabs, you have a lot of options for customizations of your image. As you can see, there is the Kodak 2383 print film, which is very popular print film among Hollywood colorists. So there's that. There's tons and tons of customizations. Some of the more important features of a film emulation plugin such as Dehancer, you've got film grain, you can customize it, or you can choose any of these options, so you can really fine tune to create the look that you want. But yeah, you've got film grain, halation, again with the customizations, or choose a preset, bloom, film damage, film breath, and then some other more stylistic choices such as gate weave, overscan, vignette, and yeah. So what I did right here, this is before, just shot in log, and this is after. So what I've done is I've first gone straight to the film stock selector over here, and I honestly just start at the top, go through and just look at all of these different tone curves. You've got some really good black and white stuff. There's just so many options to choose from. You can of course also go down to the more popular film stocks such as Kodak Gold, Kodak Portra, or even Kodak Vision 3500T or 50D. I'm gonna go back to my original, which is gonna be the Konica Impressa 50. So I do like to choose some of the more popular film stocks sometimes, but I decided that for this look, I wanted a kind of like warm, blooming image where you could almost feel the heat. So I found this film stock to be the perfect one for me. Then you have things in the film developer tab, such as contrast boost, gamma correction, color separation. All these things, although they may sound a little daunting, are just kind of more fine-tuned adjustments, basic adjustments at that you can utilize. Added a little bit of saturation to the whole image with this color boost option right here. Let's keep going down. Film compression basically compresses the highlights, because when you're shooting actual film, you're usually going to get an image that doesn't have any clipping in the white ends or the black ends. So the film compression will bring those whites down and either keep the shadows where they are or bring them up a little bit so that you have an image with no information wasted. For this specific shot, however, I am keeping it off just because I like how the sign pops without that compression on, but that's a stylized choice. So if you want a more true to film look, you would want to turn that on. This expand tab allows you to, as you can see on the histogram to the right, I'm just bringing the black point up and down wherever I need it to be. This can also be paired with that film compression knowledge that I just spoke of to get a more accurate filmic look. Here in the print section, we have these different options. You have Kodak Endura glossy paper, the notorious Kodak 2383 print film. There's also the Fujifilm 3513 print film, which a lot of people do enjoy. You can also keep it linear if you don't want the characteristics of those other stocks. In the color head, I've made very, very subtle adjustments, but you can adjust the tones of the shadows, midtones, and highlights, as well as some global color options right here. This is what that does. But of course, for this image, stylistically, I want to keep it close to how it looked in real life, and of course it did not look like this. So yeah, that's where I'm going to keep that. Next up on the film grain tab, I've put some of my personal adjustments here because there are some excellent presets, of course, that just get the job done in one click. You can enable that and adjust the amount of grain to your liking. I have kind of fine-tuned my settings here that you should feel free to copy if you want to test that out. It's kind of just a little bit more of a subtle film grain. Then we have halation, which is a characteristic of shooting film that occurs when the light is bouncing inside the mirror off the film stock. And sometimes some of that light will bleed back through the red layer. So once I turn that up, you're obviously going to see the highlights of the image blooming. So if you go mask mode, it'll show you exactly what's being affected. I do like to keep mine in the image because I think it can be very beautiful in some shots. I'm gonna disable that for now. And that is something worth mentioning. My computer has 8 gigabytes of RAM, so sometimes having all these settings on, like the halation, like the bloom, will cause it to run a lot slower. Let's see. Okay, that was working quite nicely. So I think it just depends on how heavy your grades are, how many nodes you have in your node tree. But yes, I am gonna keep that off for now. Bloom, similar to halation, does target the highlights of the image. And what that does is it softens your image almost as if you were to have a Tiffen black promise filter, which I actually do shoot with. So sometimes I think the bloom on my images is enough, but if you don't have access to that or you want a more stylized digital replication of that bloom, you can turn that on there. So that is actually everything I've done to this image. Let's take a look at it. Where'd that bird just go?
What do you mean?
Bird.
Bird.
And you.
Hello.
So yeah, that is the first shot. And once I did create and put a lot of time into this specific shot, I did save it as a preset. You can do that by going here to gallery, right clicking, grab still, and it'll save it into your library of power grades. Another shot that I do think is worth mentioning is, this is quite the long clip actually, but I will walk you through a little bit of the differences from the last one. Again, let's disable everything. I have the basic node, which kind of brings a lot of the contrast and color back into the shot. I have curves to slightly adjust the color temperature of the different areas of the image. And then you can see a lot bigger of a difference in this clip. Once I add Dehancer, you can see the tones of the foliage changing a bit. You can see the sky is very, very bright in these areas, but it's not clipping, and same with the shadows. It's very dark, but it's not dipping to the point where it's clipping at the bottom of the black spectrum. And then for this shot, I do have the grain, halation, and bloom enabled. I'm just genuinely extremely impressed that I was able to get these images out of my camera, because my camera's max resolution is 1080p, so look at that difference. Genuinely impressed. Dehancer is not telling me to say anything about their plugin. They wanted a completely honest, unbiased review. You can see the subtle halation on the highlights of the image. I think the subtle grain that I've added here does so much. It almost gives the image the look of a painting, in my opinion. But these blues that I was able to pull compared to that original footage, as well as the color of the sand, I'm just genuinely very excited to continue to use this plugin. Here are some frames of these flowers, so you can get a look at how this would look on a macro shot. One last clip here, which I think is worth taking a look at, is this one right here. As you can see, when I filmed, there was a little bit of clipping right here in the highlights, but I tried to maintain my shadows as best I could, and this is the result I achieved with Dehancer. My shadows are pretty low on the waveform, almost to complete black, but in this case it was a stylistic choice for me, but I'm just really happy with the colors I was able to pull out of the sky here. So for this specific shot, I tweaked a lot of the colors, as well as pulling down those highlights and lifting up the shadows a little bit. And then once I add my Dehancer node, you can see that I have used some of Dehancer's built-in basic adjustment tools, such as the exposure compensation here. I did use the film compression option for this clip because, as you can see, it's very, very close to clipping, and this just brings that down so that everything's a little bit more balanced. The color boost setting does do a lot for this shot as well as the contrast here. I chose the film stock Kodak Ektar 100 because I thought it had a lot of very subtly powerful characteristics in the blues of the image, as well as the oranges, so complementary colors were really powerful for this shot. I at first for this shot was using the Kodak Endura glossy paper profile for the print because I did really like how the greens interacted with the blues in the image, but I ended up choosing the Kodak 2383 print film just because I like what it did to the rest of the shot besides just the sky. I did tweak a bunch of the sliders in the color head tab. Here you can see the before and after, so the shadows were very blue. The orange hues in the sky were there, but I made them pop a lot more by tinting that sky a little bit more green. And then for this shot, I did use stock preset 35mm halation, bloom, and grain, and this is what that looks like. All in all, unbiased final review, I'm going to say that there are a lot of options, a lot of tweaks, and a lot of sliders that I haven't even touched yet, but I am very much looking forward to learning all about what this plugin has to offer. I know that there are other film emulation plugins such as Cineprint 16, Cineprint 35, which recently came out, but from what I've seen, the complex node structures required to use those plugins kind of push me away from that and would bring me closer to something like Dehancer. I will be working a lot more with this plugin in the near future and posting more content that has been created with it, but genuine honest thoughts, I do think that it's a super powerful tool full of tone curves that have been developed by color scientists and professional colorists over years. The one biggest downside in my opinion is the price. So this plugin, the pro version, will come out to about $449. Although many may say that that is a very steep price, I do think that it is an investment because it's a one-time payment and you have as much time as you need to learn the software to apply it to your personal style and process of color grading your footage. And so far, it has been the most customizable tool that I have used to color grade my footage. Thank you so much again to Dehancer for hooking me up with this software. I'm seriously looking forward to continue using it on my future projects, and I have not talked to a camera in a long time, so I hope this came out alright. But those are my thoughts. Dehancer is compatible with all major video editing softwares, as well as an iOS app that they recently came out with, which you can edit photos on there as well. That's it though. Subscribe. Peace.